Hello there my fellow bookworms, witches, nerds and weirdos. I'm Robin and welcome back to another video. This one I've been doing every single year since I first started BookTube, and it's pretty much what's keeping me going on BookTube, doing all of these catch-up videos. I think they're really fun and really wholesome. And yeah, that's what I'm doing today. Just realised that I forgot to mention the name of the tag. It is the Mid Year Freakout Tag. The first question in this tag is, what is your favourite book this year so far? And mine is actually a webtoon, and it is Zatanna and the Ripper. And I am absolutely obsessed with this series. Season 1 has just finished and it was emotional for me because I absolutely love this series so much. It follows Zatanna from DC as she is transported back in time, and she decides to solve the mystery of who is the Ripper, who's responsible for the Whitechapel murders, and it's a really fun adventure and I loved it so much. I'm still not over the end of the season, but fingers crossed there will be a season 2 and we'll be able to find out more about what happens in their world because I would really love that. The second question in this tag is, what was your favourite sequel? And it took me 2 years to read this sequel to finally get around to it and start it, and it took me like a month or 2 overall to finish it because, the first book in this series made me cry a lot, so I needed 2 years to recover in order to get back into it, and the start of this book helps you get through what happened in the first book, but I just love this story so much. This book is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, the second book in the Mistborn series. This book follows the main character Vin, who is a Mistborn, and in this world the magic system involves the ingestion of different metals, and if you're a Mistborn it means that you can harness the powers and ingest multiple kinds of metals. The main character is a Mistborn, and in the first book she becomes involved in a sort of revolution of such to overthrow the leader, who's part of a not very ideal kind of government situation. And I don't want to spoil anything by going on to what the second book is about, but a lot of big events happen in the first book, and this one helps you sort of unravel what's happened, face the aftermath, and it progresses the story on and turns it into something else, which I'm really excited for. Literally 2 days after I finished this, I went and I bought the third book in the series. Hopefully it won't take me 2 years in order to get through to this. It won't. I will probably read this by the end of the year. The next question asks about any anticipated new releases, and I have not been keeping up with what's been released lately. I've just been floating and vibing, reading whatever. I have read quite a bit less this year than usual, but it's still a crazy huge amount compared to normal people. And I've heard a lot of good things about this one novel called Fourth Wing and the sequels coming out soon, so I'm looking forward to that, and I do want to get around to reading it eventually, but my physical TBR is just so big and I really shouldn't keep buying more books. So it'll be a while before I get around to it, unless I suddenly have an impulsive urge to buy it, in which case I shall buy it and read it. The next prompt is most disappointing read, and I have had a very selective reading year, let's just say, so I haven't really had any big disappointments, but I've gone through my story graph, and the lowest rated book on there is Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut, and I do remember feeling slightly disappointed, but I felt more confused by this book. It was very weird, and it wasn't what I expected it to be, and sometimes that works for some people, what it ended up being, and for me it didn't. It was sort of a guide to this one specific time and a specific experience in America, guided with lots of illustrations and so on, aimed towards an alien. But it wasn't for me. I feel like it was probably of its time and place and situation, and would appeal to a very specific type of person, or someone who is just a huge fan of Kurt Vonnegut. But yeah, it just wasn't for me personally, and it wasn't hugely disappointing or anything. It was still a valid experience to read about. Yeah, it just wasn't for me though. The next prompt is the inverse of this, and it is the most surprising book you've read. And for this, I'd have to say Mexican Gothic. I read the ebook version of this, hence why I don't have a physical copy. In fact, I should have held up the physical copy for Breakfast of Champions, but it's done now. It's fine. Whatever. The reason why this was so surprising to me was because this was a read known by my mum's book club for not being something that they enjoyed, something that made them feel really uncomfortable, and they just didn't like it whatsoever. But I really enjoyed this book. Not so much as it wasn't a 5-star. I rated it as 4.25 on Storygraph because I really liked it. It wasn't a favourite book, but I really enjoyed what they tried to do with it, and I feel like it's really interesting. It's kind of typical of the Gothic genre in the fact that it's centred around this creepy house, and people interacting with a creepy environment, which I really enjoyed because I'm a huge fan of Gothic stories. And some of the kind of quirky things about the house were biological, which is what freaked people out when reading it in the book club, but I just found it really interesting. The next prompt is favourite new author, and for that I'd say Susanna Clarke, because I've read 2 of her books this year and I've really enjoyed them. One of them was Piranesi, which followed this journey through this weird house with different sort of worlds in each room, and it was really unique. And the other one was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is a sort of magical realism book about this undercover war fight going on between magicians, and these gentleman magicians and these actual practitioners, and there are only really 2 in England, and it's just super interesting. I won't go too deep into the plot, I want you to read it for yourselves, but yeah, I thought both books were super interesting, and so I quite like the writing style that Susanna Clarke put across, and yeah, I would read another one of her books. The next prompt is a story that made you cry, and I would say Zatanna and the Ripper again, but I've already mentioned it, so I'm going to mention another webtoon story that made me cry. Not gonna lie, most webtoon stories make me cry. I am very emotional. So there's Batman Wayne Family Adventures, and it follows quite a few wholesome little stories involving the Bat family and different characters within that sort of group and part of DC, and it's all just very wholesome, and there are a lot of emotional and vulnerable moments that are revealed through this webcomic, and yeah, they do make me cry sometimes. The next prompt is a story that made you happy, and I could say this about so many webtoon stories I've been reading, but I feel like I should probably start heading back towards the direction of physical books as well as like online graphic novels. So for this one I'm going for A Mother's Light by Freya Mask, and this book just made me happy. It's kind of a story of a sort of rivals to lovers kind of story, and I don't know, I thought it was nice. It was quite a happy ending as well. I don't want to describe specifics instead of spoilers, but I'd been meaning to read this book for a while. It's one of my best friend's favourites, so I thought I should read it for him, and it's really good. The next is The Most Beautiful Book, and for that I'm going to say Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, which I finally finished after forever. I read like the first 20 pages at the start of my first year in uni, and for some reason or another I just didn't get around to finish it, probably because I do not find it easy reading hardback books. The person who got this for me, it was an apology kind of gift, being like, oh, I'm sorry I've been treating you badly, here's a book I think you'd like, not realising that I'm a paperback person. So yeah, there's that kind of attachment that made me not read it for a while, but it's a really pretty book nonetheless. So this is the front cover. I absolutely love like the colour scheme and the shiny like foil as well, and the back. Oh, it's so absolutely stunning, and on the inside looks like this. I haven't actually taken this off to see if there's anything on the side. Oh, there's a really pretty side thing over there. But yeah, that's the prettiest book that I've finished this year so far. And the final thing is what I still need to read. And to that I say, nothing that I haven't bought yet. I really need to get my TBR down because it is not budged at all recently. It has not particularly grown at all. However, my TBR is huge and I'd like it to be smaller. And I probably should get more into the habit of what I used to do, reading every day, because now I don't do that. And the amount that I've read has shown that. I have read 50 books this year, including comics and manga, and yeah, I am enjoying that I'm able to read less and not feel guilty about it. However, I do also miss having more books to talk about. So that was my 2023 Mid Year Freakout Tag. Crazy that this is, what, the third year of me doing this, and I'm somehow still going with this booktube thing. Mad. Amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll hopefully see you again soon for another video. Bye.